You know that feeling when you see something completely transform almost, well, right before your very eyes?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what's happening right now in Kirtipur, Nepal, their main cricket ground. It's undergoing this really dramatic, rapid makeover.
It really is.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into its pretty remarkable journey.
It's a fantastic story, actually. We're talking about the Tribhuvan University International Cricket Ground. It's Nepal's premier cricket venue, established way back in 1998.
Right.
Seats about 15,500 people. And it's not just, a stadium. It's really the heart of Nepalese cricket, home ground for both the national men's and women's teams.
So our goal with this deep dive, then, is to really unpack the ground's history, look at the challenges, the very real challenges it's faced, and this incredibly ambitious, almost unbelievably fast-paced upgrade that's happening right now.
Exactly. We'll dig into the key decisions, the money involved, which gets interesting, the unexpected setbacks, and just the incredible push to get it all done on time.
And we should say, this isn't just for the cricket fanatics listening.
No, absolutely not. What's really compelling here, I think, is that it's such a powerful case study. You see national aspiration, you see the nuts and bolts of big infrastructure development.
Yeah.
And the, frankly, surprising realities of pushing a major project forward when the pressure is immense. It tells a much bigger story than just sport.
Okay, so let's trace this journey back. Where did it all begin for the TU ground?
Well, its first recorded match was back in 1998 during the ACC Trophy. So it started building its international profile pretty steadily from the get-go.
Okay.
Then it hosted first-class games in 2005. That was for the Intercontinental Cup.
In first class, just for anyone not deep in cricket, that means the longer multi-day matches, right? A real step up.
Exactly, a sign of growing prestige. But a really crucial moment, I'd say, arrived on February 5th, 2020.
Ah, the first ODI.
Yes. Its very first one-day international, Nepal versus Oman. That really cemented its place, on the global stage.
And it's kept hosting them.
Oh, yeah. The most recent ODI mentioned in the records was just a few months back, February 25th, 2024.
So the ground was definitely building momentum, gaining international recognition. But then 2015 happened. A terrible time for Nepal.
Absolutely devastating. The earthquake in April 2015 hit the country so hard. And yeah, the ground's infrastructure didn't escape. It took a significant blow.
It could have just stopped everything, cricket-wise.
It really could have. But the response, honestly, showed incredible resilience. The Cricket Association of Nepal Can and Tribhuvan University, they jumped right in, led the rebuilding efforts.
What did they actually manage to do then, post-earthquake?
Quite a bit, actually. They added new perimeter walls, proper pavilion buildings, a dedicated media box, VIP seating, even a tower structure.
Wow.
It really underlined this sort of continuous development mindset. Even after a massive disaster, they kept pushing forward.
And that drive, that resilience, it seems like it was building towards something even bigger, didn't it?
It feels that way in hindsight, yeah.
Because fast forward to July 2024, and suddenly things shift into this almost unbelievable high gear. What was the trigger for that?
Well, the big moment, the game changer, came on July 15th, 2024.
Okay.
That's when Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli's cabinet made a really pivotal, you could almost say audacious decision.
Which one?
To fast-track massive infrastructure upgrades, specifically installing floodlights for night games and adding a lot more spectator seating.
And the timeline.
That's the kicker. An incredibly aggressive 10-month completion target.
10 months for floodlights and major seating construction.
Yep. A huge commitment, a massive undertaking for a project of this scale and that time frame.
So ambitious goal set, but then you have the practicalities, the money, the contracts. How did that unfold? Any bumps initially?
Oh, definitely bumps. Earlier attempts to get bids, the tenders, as they're called, for these upgrades, had actually failed.
Right. That happened.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. Could be budget issues, unclear scope, but they persisted. The breakthrough finally came with the fourth tender, issued December 20th, 2024. This one was specifically for the parapet, that's the seating structure, and the floodlight works.
Okay, fourth time lucky, and the money. The initial estimates versus the final contracts, because those numbers, they jump out.
They really do. So the initial tendered amounts were around Rs 16.2 million for the parapet work and Rs 17.3 million for the floodlights. Seemed perhaps quite low.
Okay.
But then, February 13th, 2025, the bids are awarded. The parapet contract goes to a joint venture, BKLY, AKC, AEC, BGJV, wait for it, RSA 430 million.
Whoa, 430 million from 16.
Yeah. And the floodlights contract, awarded to another JV, Vishaneshwari, for RS $420 million, up from $17 million.
That's astronomical. What explains that kind of leap? Is that normal or something specific going on here?
Well, it really highlights the complexities, doesn't it? A jump that big. It's pretty stark. Some variation between tender estimates and final bids is normal, sure. But this magnitude,
Right.
it could point to a few things. Maybe the initial scope was just wildly underestimated. Perhaps the sheer urgency, that 10-month deadline, drove costs way up.
Because contractors know they can charge a premium for speed.
Potentially, yeah. Or it could reflect a challenging bidding environment. Maybe fewer companies were willing or able to take on such a high-pressure, fast-track job. Unforeseen ground conditions, material costs, lots of factors could play in.
And you mentioned JV joint venture. That's just companies teaming up, right?
Exactly. Pooling resources, expertise, common for big projects like this. It spreads the risk and capability.
Okay, so contracts finally awarded, massive budgets approved. Construction kicks off mid-February 2025, aiming for May 7th. That initial deadline sounds insane.
It was incredibly ambitious, yeah. Just a few months to build a 10,000-seat parapet structure and erect 6 massive floodlight towers.
In Nepal's context, building infrastructure, is that even remotely feasible?
Well, as you might expect, they hit roadblocks. It's almost inevitable on projects this fast.
What kind of roadblocks?
The classics, really. Heavy monsoon rains arrived, which obviously slows down outdoor construction significantly.
Okay, weather. Makes sense.
Then there were land acquisition issues, sorting out exactly which bits of land were needed and getting access, and, believe it or not, legal wrangles over tree clearance.
Tree clearance? Seriously?
Yeah, it sounds minor, but clearing trees on public or contested land can involve permits, environmental checks, sometimes legal challenges. It all adds time you don't have.
So frustrating when you're racing against the clock. What was the impact of all this?
Well, the contractors, understandably, had to request a 2-month extension. It just wasn't feasible to hit that May 7th date.
Makes sense.
But then things got even more interesting. High-level intervention. On May 5th, Prime Minister Oli himself shows up at the site.
The PM personally inspecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And apparently he wasn't pleased with the pace. Reports say he, chastised the delays pretty strongly.
Wow.
And demanded completion by mid-July. No ifs, ands, or buts.
So political will kicking into high gear, does that actually help on the ground? Cut through red tape or just add pressure?
Probably a bit of both. That kind of direct oversight from the top, it likely signals to everyone down the chain, ministries, local authorities, that this is priority number 1. Approvals might happen faster.
Right.
But yeah, undoubtedly immense pressure on the contractors and workers. And it seemed to work, to an extent. By May 8th, just days after the PM's visit, reports said contractors were working around the clock. Construction was gaining momentum.
Speed mode engaged.
Pretty much. And even with the delays and the need for an extension, the pace was still described as unusually swift by Nepal's infrastructure standards. Imagine trying to build massive concrete structures and towers during monsoon season at record speed.
It really makes you think, what does it take? What extraordinary combination of pressure, resources, and maybe cutting corners, or maybe just sheer will does it take to pull that off?
It's a key question, isn't it?
And the pressure didn't ease up after that visit, did it?
No, seems like it stayed high. On June 8th, PM Oli again called for an intensified push, keep the foot on the gas. Then, a significant bureaucratic step on June 23rd. The bids were finally approved, and all responsibility was handed over fully to the Federal Ministry of Urban Development.
Streamlining things further?
Seems like the goal, yeah. Centralizing control, perhaps, to keep things moving towards that mid-July target.
And how does it look right now as of, say, late June, early July 2025? Can you see the finish line?
Well, reports say major construction on both the parapets and the floodlights is visibly underway. You can see real, tangible progress.
That's encouraging.
Absolutely. The target remains full completion by mid-July 2025. If they hit that, it genuinely transforms the ground, makes it a proper, modern venue capable of hosting day-night international matches.
Which is huge for Nepal cricket.
Massive.
So, looking back then, we've seen this ground, the Tribhuvan University cricket ground, evolve from its start in '98 through that incredibly resilient post-earthquake rebuild to this current, almost frantic sprint to become a truly state-of-the-art international venue, enabling those crucial day-night games. That really strengthens Nepal's place in the ICC circuit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Being able to host day-night ODIs, potentially T20s, Opens up broadcasting opportunities, bigger crowds, maybe more fixtures. It boosts their standing in the global cricket community, which is vital for development and funding.
And as we said at the start, this story, it really goes beyond just cricket or one stadium.
It really does. It's a powerful narrative, isn't it? You see governance in action or under pressure. You see the real world fight against challenges like weather. You see the intricacies and sometimes baffling aspects of procurement and project costs. And maybe above all, you see the undeniable force of political will, how it can sometimes make things happen at a speed you wouldn't think possible. It's a microcosm of national development, really.
So the final thought for you listening, as we watch this incredible race against the clock towards that mid-July deadline, what bigger lessons can we maybe draw from the TU Cricket Grounds transformation? What does it tell us about the challenges, but also the triumphs of building national infrastructure? And perhaps how do these projects reflect a nation's sporting dreams? Yes, but also its fundamental ability to get big things done, especially when the pressure is really on.